Hello everyone, I hope everyone is doing well during this time. I hope you guys will enjoy today's lesson. We will talk about the writing process of English. And first, we will look at the aims and objectives. We will look at the CAPS background of the writing process and practices. We will outline the process writing stages with examples. We will look at the different essays and transactional writing requirements. We will look at a discursive essay and transactional writing and how the process can be implemented. And then we will look at the benefits and the challenges of the writing process. And then we will also look at questions. So if you have any questions, I will be more than glad to answer them. So the first thing we will look at is the CAPS background. So they are of opinion that it is better to make use of an integrated approach, also known as the process approach. It allows students to brainstorm, to plan and determine the requirements, if it is going to be formal or informal. They can look at the audience, and then it allows students to be creative. They are allowed to make mistakes and also share their points of view of opinions, which is a great way to express themselves. To make use of editing, this is the part where they can correct their spelling mistakes, their grammar and punctuation, where they can improve. And then writing is a very powerful instrument. It will help students to develop skills, not just for writing, but for speaking and reading as well. So writing can make the impossible possible through using a process approach. So the first thing we will look at in the stages of the writing process is pre-writing. So pre-writing is a way to prepare students with information where they can choose a topic, also where learners learn how to write, and where they gain more background information, where they can also talk about a topic that they are very passionate about, and they will determine the purpose for who they are going to write, the audience, where they can jot down their own ideas. It is also a way to help them. For example, the coronavirus, they can talk about that, their experiences, and which opportunities they see in the pre-writing phase. And then the second step is drafting. So drafting is where the learners can put their thoughts down, and also where you accumulate a lot of information, doing research about your topic. So during this phase, the students will not focus on the mechanics of writing, but they will also be able to use different methods, for example, brainstorming, using pictures, and also show different ways of the writing process. So this gradually will prepare them for their final draft. So this is where you must get a lot of information as possible. We will also see that the writing process is very disorganized here until the editing phase or revising phase of the process. So this is where you will find and correct your problems. You will think about the ideas and which ideas you can take out. This is also the phase where language, spelling, and grammar will be corrected with guidance. And this is also where you can take out sentences and use different words. So this is where you look at the bigger picture, where you can erase things and add. So revision is more of a way to correct a broken picture and to make it a better one. So this is a phase where you can really take out and be creative. And this is a saying where they say, when you're inside the bottle, you can't read the label. So when you are inside something, you must get outside to reach your destination. So the editing phase is where students might need help, where they will ask for help. So this is where students will really need to look at their writing before they hand it in. So the teacher will help students to gain strategies how to revise and edit their own paper. So for example, always check for spelling errors. I don't know if you can find the spelling mistakes here. Always check for and then spelling errors. For example, if students don't know how to spell a word, it is a good way to give them a dictionary to find the spelling mistakes on their own. This way they will learn how to correct their own mistakes. They will need to look at grammar, the words, for example, plural or singular, and also adjectives and verbs and punctuation, commas, apostrophes, and full stops and question marks. So this process can be repeated. You can go back to revising. You may go back to your drafting to see which information you want to maybe add, which information did you miss. So this is really the phase or stage where you can repeat the process of writing. And then the fifth and final stage of writing is publishing. So this is where you need to think about the writing text and paper. You need to make sure that all your mistakes are corrected, and then you can submit your paper. So this phase is where you need to make sure that your paper is 100% completed before you submit your final paper. Okay, so make sure your written document is completed before giving it to the publisher. So this is also where your ideas are focused on the main picture and where you can communicate or convey your point of view or writing paper. Now we will look at the difference between an essay and transactional writing. An essay is usually based on a story, but you also have 4 different types of essays. So I use this picture because I think it is a very good way to be able to showcase the different essays. The first one is a narrative essay. So with a narrative essay, you will tell the story about the man maybe and how he came into the situation, or you can imagine being the man and taking on his character of retelling the story in the first person. Then a reflective essay is really about how you might feel, okay, in the situation when you look at the picture. Are you sad? Are you happy? Are you hopeful? I don't know if you can see that it's a contrast of dark and light. Maybe he was in a dark place and then he found hope, so he might feel hopeful. And then with a descriptive essay, you need to really describe the setting. He's maybe in nature and now he's feeling more alive than ever before. He was in a dark place. Maybe you can write about the past and bring it back into the future, where you can see that his arms are open. So he's very positive, and he is putting the bad things that happened to him behind him, and he's looking forward into the light. Okay, and then you can write the discursive essay. So when you look at this picture, what do you see? Which contrast of good and bad can you maybe write about? So a discursive essay, you need to be objective. You cannot write about your own opinion. So you must really be factual in a discursive essay. And then we also are going to look at transactional writing. So if we look at transactional writing, you have a longer transactional writing text and shorter transactional writing. So usually there are more emphasis on longer transactional writing, especially formal letters, informal or a friendly letter. You can make use of formal and informal letters to the press. You can also see that you need to be able to write a curriculum vitae and a covering letter. You are going to apply for a job one day. Then you must be able to write a review, newspaper article, a magazine article. You must be able to take agendas or minutes. And then you must also be able to write a dialogue, a written interview, a formal and informal speech. So we are going to look at a discursive essay first and transactional writing text following a process approach. So a discursive essay, you must show both views or both sides. So you cannot be favoring one view over the other. You need to be factual. So if you like research, this is a good way to practice for becoming a great researcher one day. So you are not going to give your own opinion, but you are going to represent both viewpoints. For example, you can be factual. You must be factual, especially. This is important. And then you can support your answers with because this shows however, therefore, and so. So usually with a discursive essay, you can use the present tense. For example, we are living in the coronavirus. So you can actually write in the present tense, and then you can show maybe about the lockdown, the negatives and positives, which is very factual if we think about that for a second. And you need to be objective. So being objective is not being one-sided. So you choose to take the information that you have and write about that. Okay, so the case for and against, and then the main features that will be in a discursive essay is your content. So your content will need to be really good to support your ideas and creative. Then you need to have a very good introduction. Throughout the 20th century, our views of life on other planets have drastically changed, but you can change that maybe our views of life have drastically changed right now during this time and how we do things. Then you need to think about the body, so you can break it into paragraphs. Your main idea will be the first paragraph, then your advantages will be the second paragraph, and your disadvantages will be the third paragraph. And then you will also need to make use of metaphors, especially if you are a first additional language student or learner. It is easier to make use of creative language. This will showcase that you know more about English, and it is also interesting to see how you can think outside of your own home language. For example, if you are an Afrikaans person, this will help you a lot. And make empirical use of language. Maybe you can use darkness and light in your, if we go back to the picture, you can use descriptive language, especially if you struggle to describe situations and things. So this is an example of discursive essay and how we can apply the process approach. So first we will choose the topic. So here we can see that freedom of choice has both advantages and disadvantages. We can see the second step is to plan the essay. So topic you will write down at the top, and then you will begin with your paragraphs and planning. Paragraph 1, essay is democratic. People have freedom of choice. This has advantages and disadvantages. We can see that this person is keeping to the instructions, so they will be on topic and not write about other things that are not important. And then you can see that this person chose to write on the conclusion. People have rights, so this will connect with the introduction. And rights bring responsibilities. Then the second paragraph, advantages, the third paragraph, disadvantages. And then you need to write and edit your draft essay. So you will write and then also correct your essay using language at the side. You can see that it is not the final paper. So maybe use plurals and singulars, and maybe also possessive nouns and pronouns. And you can see that this person will need to correct the pronoun here, okay, he or she or their, and also choose better words. So if you don't know how to use better words in English, you can find a word, and there are a lot of ways how you can do that. On the internet, you can also use a dictionary. That's a great way to use more formal English. And then you can see that the writing process is being repeated. You can go back to drafting, and when you did drafting, you can go to editing. This is if you went through all the steps, then you can go back, and then you need to hand in your final essay. So you can see that this essay is error-free. So editing will improve your essay. Now we will look at a transactional writing. You can see that this is a formal letter. This is quite easy because this is what people usually choose, and a great way to show the different transactional writings going through the process writing approach. So here, this person will need to write a letter to a human resource manager of a company for a bursary, and they need to state in their letter why do they want the bursary, and mention the career they want to go into, and also why they deserve the bursary. So you will write down your topic here for planning. Then the first paragraph will be your introduction. You can use keywords, the background, and then you will need to state what you want to study and where at Stellenbosch. B, accounting. Second paragraph. So you will do anything to succeed. You are dedicated. You don't want any debt, and you need money to go and study. So the third paragraph, accounting is their passion. They have a very great talent for numbers, and they don't want to pass, they want to excel. The conclusion is where you state that you are very excited and you would like to hear back from the person, so looking forward to a response. And here you can see that the writer will need to edit their draft text. So look at the address, okay, and the mistakes. The need to correct the verb from make to making, become, becoming, and then also abbreviations is not a formal writing style. Do not use abbreviations when you're writing a formal letter. This is for academic purposes, so keep it professional, and also look at the ending of the letter, yours faithfully. So here I use the formal letter, the final text, okay? So make sure that you look at the address format, that there's no punctuation, and the date is addressed here. And then also look at the correct address format. For a business, you always write it at the right side of the paper. And the title of the person, the manager, human resources, and there is no punctuation. And then also correct the greeting style here. Dear Mr. Retief, very professional. Leave bigger spaces between your paragraphs. It is easier to read for the reader. And then correct the salutation mark here, yours faithfully or yours sincerely or truly, and then your signature, and don't forget to write down your name in print. And then we will look at the benefits of teaching the writing process. So writing develops and refines thinking, especially if we look at Bloom's taxonomy, low order thinking skills, and then moving up to high order thinking skills. It also promotes critical and analytical thinking. We need to think about creative ideas. We need to find new strategies to address maybe problems or situations and improve our world, maybe doing good when the world is so upside down, okay? And we need to find solutions to our problems, especially during the coronavirus. We need critical and analytical thinkers to help find a vaccine. And then we need to be able to apply what we write about. Sometimes writing will be a passive process, but we need to activate our passive process into a doing something in reality. For example, writing about the coronavirus will not really cure the situation, but then we also need to write down the steps to find a cure and then implement that process. So how writing helps us learn. If we cannot write, we are not going to be able to learn more. It leads to personal growth. As a person, your writing will improve as you practice more. The saying practice makes perfect is quite true. Using more professional language in English will only happen through writing and talking, or speaking and reading. So we will not be able to read without being able to write. You cannot be a good reader if you are not able to write. Writing will help with grammar, spelling, with a lot of skills. So errors are part of a writer's growth. You are more than welcome to make mistakes. This is not a competition to see who is going to be the best, but rather of personal growth as we all go through a process in life. It is a great way to communicate, to connect to others around the world. It's okay to make mistakes. If we can look at this picture, writing is connecting us to the global world. You can know people in America and you are sitting in South Africa because of writing. It also gives us new opportunities. Maybe you are not a talker, so it's easier for you to write down things, especially if you are maybe more of a quiet person. So it makes it easier for your feelings and experiences and expressions to be able to write them down. And then writing is fun. So keep calm and write more. So what this actually says is keep calm and practice more. So the more you practice things, the better you get. You will not get things right the first time. So be open to learning more every day and you will be a very successful person one day. So learning is part of the journey. So challenges of implementing a process approach. So to look at a process approach without thinking that you are part of a product is quite difficult, because actually you are working towards something. And they want to say that the process is a linear sequence and it's only a reflection of a product. So when you hand in your final text or something or a book, it is actually a written product and you just followed a process to get there. And the fact that the process writing approach account for a mental process during text production ignores the grammar structure. So it is more focused on the mental side than a creative side. So it is more difficult to focus on 5 things at one time, and it may cause inconveniences. Okay, they do not follow a fixed order, so it is not something that is set in stone. It is something that is changing. And then it is also a writing classroom is not powerful enough for students to learn more skills. Maybe one student is struggling with grammar, now he needs to focus on being creative, and he is creative already. It does not help them with maybe punctuation. So those are things we need to think about when we do writing. Do we teach students more about being creative than the importance of speaking English professionally? So that is also something to think about. So spelling and sentence construction. If you are not able to spell, it is more difficult to write. So spelling is also something that needs to be focused on separately. and sentence construction, your words. For example, if you're Afrikaans, your sentence structure will be very different than English. Some things in Afrikaans is at the end where it is more in the beginning of English. So you need to master foundational skills. If you skip steps at school and phases, it is more difficult to be on the same level as your classmates. So it is devoted to explicitly teaching students strategies rather than a process of planning and revising. So they say that the process is more of a product of teaching students factually what to do instead of them being actively involved. Okay, so for questions. So I wrote down 3 questions that you might find interesting. I will try to answer them as fully as possible. So, can visuals be incorporated throughout the different stages of the process writing approach as an asset to facilitate and improve the development of writing skills? So, I think when we make use of the writing process, it is important to give students visual aids. For me, personally, I prefer to see a picture instead of just words, as a picture for me is more detailed. I can use my background knowledge to a certain level. For example, if you give me a question mark, you don't have to write down any questions because you will know that it represents questions. So you will be able to connect more to the world, and you will also be able to write more about ideas. You'll be more creative. Okay, so it is not just focusing on analytical thinking, but also creative thinking as well. So why is writing a challenge? If we think about the problems in our education system, students are not able to spell. They do not know when to use the correct grammar or punctuation. They do not know the definition of words, and they have no background understanding or background knowledge. The resources are very limited if we think about the challenges. The breaking down of the writing process suggested by the process writing approach provide an opportunity to differentiate instruction. So if we want to differentiate instruction, I think it is quite a challenge. We had 30 students in classrooms. All of the students are unique, and every student has a different way of learning. So I think it is important to find different methods for each classroom, and maybe group students that are more creative and learn in a certain way with one another. And then it will also be easier for them to learn how the writing approach may work. So thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day further. This was a really good experience as an online teacher, and also a first time to do this. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you are more than welcome to email me. Bye.